I want the news, not the weather. Mars, did you hear me sing Werewolf Flanders? Lindley!
It's an everyday, hiding from the sunshine, wandering in the shade, not too old, not too young, every night again, dancing with the moonlight, so we're far away, I can hear your call. I'm out of my head, of my heart, of my mind.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to What the Hell Happened to Them? Jack Attacks the Cast. That's right, Jack Nicholson this season. I am your host, Patrick Skeyhill, and joining me on the line is a cumbersome wallflower.
That's me? A cumbersome wallflower?
Yeah, I know, that sounds kind of mean, actually.
It does sound mean.
Yeah, alright, joining me on the line is a dude over there, Joe Vekeman.
Hi, it's me.
You are a dude, and perhaps over there.
I am over here.
And on the audio boards is Lev Van Rensselaer, reminding me to remind you that you can email the cast at whathappenedtothemcast@gmail.com. And our sponsor this week is Nausages, the only sausage semi-approved by the FDA to cure nausea. Nausages, because nausea is the worst. And that's worst with a U.
Oh, okay. That's nice.
Yeah.
I thought it was like nos, like speed that car up. Nausages.
Oh, no. You got Vin Diesel on the brains here. No, like nausea. Nausages. You see, I couldn't read the copy, so it's much easier over here.
Yeah, instead of me just guessing.
You just dicking around over there. Well, Joe, what movie we doing?
We watched 1994's Mike Nichols directed Wolf.
Yes.
Wolf.
What happens in a world that has never heard of werewolves before?
Well, publisher Will Randall becomes a demon wolf and has to fight to keep his job. I think that's a great description.
Yeah, let me tell you.
Tell me.
I was like, I know, I'm doing a werewolf movie? Ugh. And then Mike Nichols' name came up, and I went, oh, maybe it's like a metaphor for, so it's a, well, there's no real wolf in the, and then James Spader's name came up, and I went, is this gonna be real wolves? What's going on?
You should have known as soon as James Spader came in, you're like, well, the metaphors are definitely going out the window now.
Yeah, that's what I saw his name was like third build, and I went, oh, wait, are we doing real wolves? Like, it was like really quick up and down.
But then you saw...
DHP.
DHP?
DHP. I did see him, for 5 seconds.
Yeah, he's not as much as I thought he was going to be.
But I'll take it. Yeah, he was pretty low down in the credits. And so when I saw him in, like, the first 2 scenes, I was like, that's probably all we're getting, right? Maybe there's, like, one little obligatory one to remind us of who you are near the end.
Yeah. Let me, just on top of your, like, hey, is this going to be a subtle wolf movie? Director Mike Nichols had originally wanted Michelle Pfeiffer to wear a red hooded sweatshirt for the movie's final act. She refused as she thought it would harm the movie's credibility.
That was the thing that was going too far, Michelle. That has gone too far over the line.
Maybe she wasn't in all the scenes with all the makeup and everything, and Jack jumping around like a...
You have it, like, be like an off kind of red, maybe like a mauvey kind of red.
Yeah.
I don't think she would wear one, her character, but it would not have made me think any less of the movie had it happened.
What about this? Jack Nicholson had been trying to get this movie made with his friend, screenwriter, and associate producer, Jim Harrison, for 12 years. Since The Border, he's been trying to get this made.
I will say, there has rarely been such a casting slam dunk as Jack Nicholson playing a Wolfman.
It's great.
It's you just see him driving the car at the beginning, and you're like, oh, of course.
Why have we waited this long?
You didn't even have to change him that much. You just, like, moosed up his hair a little bit. And you're like, Wolfman. And I go, yep, I buy it. And now, 3 out of 4 of our people have been in superhero films. Now that Jack Nicholson is a superhero wolf guy.
Superhero wolf guy? I guess he's a good wolf.
It followed superhero film beats pretty by the nose.
Oh, yeah.
In Especially once you got werewolf James Spader at the end. Superhero film all the way.
Well, Nicholson was just in a superhero movie, so he's like, I know the beats to this.
Oh,
Let's
that's
just get
right. I
this done.
forgot he did Batman. Yeah, when are we getting the Julia Roberts superhero film? It seems inevitable now, right?
Well...
When is she going to play the Flash's mother or something?
Flash already has a mother, and we don't know how she dies. Spoiler for the new movie that just came out. The whole thing revolves around her, like, her death, and you're like, well, who killed her? They don't tell you.
Well, you gotta wait till the sequel, obviously, Joe.
That's what I guess they were planning, but then the movie made $55 million this weekend, and they're like, well, that's a bomb.
Whoa. How much did the movie cost?
Like $350 million. They had to make it like 3 times.
Okay. All right, so Black Adam, $450 million movie.
Yeah.
Made like what? $200 million overall?
If that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Flash movie, $350 million. Then made $50 million his opening weekend. Batgirl, $75 million.
Don't get me started on this
Too
right now.
risky to put out in theaters. Too risky to even bother with streaming. Just burn it all to the ground. We've got much better films in the wings ready to go. Come, Flash. Everybody will want to watch you. You've got Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton was in
Michael
Batgirl.
Keaton was in Batgirl. No. Don't worry about that. It's burnt. It's gone.
One of the cops who attempts to arrest Will at the zoo.
David Schwimmer.
Yeah, David Schwimmer.
It was hard to miss it. Like, even before he had said a line, he's like behind Jack Nicholson's head.
Yeah,
And
I know. His stinking head.
David Schwimmer? I guess it is right before Friends is about to come out, so it would make sense.
Another theatrical movie debut of Allison Janney.
Where the hell is she?
She's a party guest.
Oh, gotta start somewhere.
Oh, well, this is news.
Yeah.
This will be the final collaboration that we do between director Mike Nichols and Jack Nicholson. Sad. Very sad.
Yeah, Nicholson's mad. He's like, why the hell did you bring me into this one, Jack?
Yeah. But he's like, hey, I'm into it.
I'm like, I've watched a lot of Mike Nichols films. This seems very out of his wheelhouse. He's not even really directing it like a Mike Nichols film. Some of the editing kind of captures the Mike Nichols feel, but the directing is just generic, regular directing. And I go, oh, because he didn't really want to do this movie? Okay.
Jack Nicholson had final say about who the director would be, and one of his choices was Mike Nichols.
I wonder, Tim Burton maybe was one? That would have been a good choice.
I mean, that would make the most sense. Sharon Stone turned down the role of Laura Alden.
Oh, that would have been another slam dunk.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like, all right, let me bring this woman I've romanced before in the films.
Yeah, you know what's really weird?
Yeah.
Jack Nicholson, Michelle Pfeiffer, and Richard Jenkins were just in The Witches of Eastwick together.
I know, it's like Christopher Plummer was in a Nicholson film recently too, wasn't he? Or at
Wasn't
some
he?
point.
What was it, though?
It's like all the old timers were coming out of retirement to help out on a Mike Nichols film.
I mean, yeah, I had fun. I had fun with this one. Did you like it?
I liked it enough. I didn't hate it.
I liked it. What was my review of this? Let's see. What did I say of this?
What did Joe say?
I said, gave me everything I wanted. Good.
That's all you need.
It is.
Can't complain about that.
When Nicholson, like the picture on Letterboxd is great because I saw Nicholson and I was like, oh, he's in the wolf makeup, so this is gonna be about wolves. And I'm like, okay, cool. So it's giving me what I wanted. And then it kind of happens right away. He gets bit right at the beginning of the movie.
They set it right up. But like that's why I'm thinking like maybe metaphor, you know, like now he seems to be this pencil pusher at his job, and like it's this Wall Street metaphor where now he's got to like toughen up and take what's his. And all that's in the film. It's a commentary on kind of the stock brokerage of Wall Street at the time, and then also is a real wolf. Like they took the metaphor too far.
Where it became no more metaphor.
Yeah. They said, what if our subtext just became text? What if we did that? Wouldn't that be nifty?
When asked why she chose to take on the role of Laura, Michelle Pfeiffer Michelle Pfeiffer simply stated that she didn't want to do another accent, didn't want to put on another wig, didn't want to put on another corset, but instead wanted to just do something modern day.
She's like, I didn't want to try too hard. The end. I like, though, that the film used to be that Jack had been working 12 years on the film, which makes me feel better. Like, in theory, he should have been more closer into the age of his love interest, right?
Wouldn't that be nice?
Like, that was the original intention 12 years prior, and now he just kind of stuck with it.
Although the movie is about a werewolf, that particular word is never mentioned. Instead, the phrase demon wolf is used several times.
Well, yeah, they've obviously never heard of the werewolf before. Everybody's like, wow, you got bit by a wolf? Oh, that would be ridiculous if you were becoming a wolf, like some kind of wolf person.
You're like a wolf
Too much.
creature.
Why would you want to wear wolf clothing?
That is good. I think you should do movies. Michelle Pfeiffer. During the making of this movie, Michelle Pfeiffer adopted a baby girl, became engaged, and got married. How long was this movie being made for? That seems like a lot. While you're working? Okay, so she is married to David E. Kelly, television producer.
What? Really?
You did not know about this?
I know, I didn't know. That's an interesting pairing.
I think they're still married.
Good for them.
Yeah.
I'm always a fan of that.
There's an uncredited rewrite on some of this movie from Elaine May.
Not Carol Eastman.
No, Jesus.
Yeah, not after all that trouble with men.
This is the second time Michelle Pfeiffer has fallen in love with a wolf in a movie. She hasn't been making movies that long at this point. She's already twice.
So two wolves and the devil, that's
In a decade,
Michelle
in the
Pfeiffer's
same
love
decade.
interest. And a guy in a bat costume.
Yep.
And
Wow.
Michelle Pfeiffer's in some odd movies.
And they're around the same time, falling in love with Al Pacino, who is like a bat and a wolf at the same time.
Yeah.
So the film was shot from early April to late July in 1993. Its release was delayed for 6 to 8 months in order to reshoot the poorly received ending. Well, tell me what the ending is. Come on.
What, so it was a different ending than this?
Yeah, I guess it ended poorly, or was received poorly.
Received. They just didn't change it at all. They said, F it.
Looks like John Williams was set to score the movie.
But we got somebody else who said...
John Williams was kind of busy scoring Schindler's List and Jurassic Park at the time.
Yeah, that'll eat up your time. So who then gave us the triumphant deer-eating music and sexy werewolf jazz? Wasn't lazy, but was certainly unintuitive.
Do you want to take that back? I think this guy is pretty good.
He could be good and make a bad score. Hans Zimmer did something to talk about, so they don't always hit.
So I forgot. I wanted to bring this up when we started, like at the beginning. When the credits started rolling, I was like, "Oh, this is kind of stacked with the crew side," because you got Bo Welch for production designer, who just worked on the Batman series with Tim Burton, and of course Mike Nichols. And then I saw the composer, and I'm like, "Oh, Ennio Morricone."
Yeah, yeah. Odd choices were made here.
Rick Baker for the makeup. Oh, it was great.
Yeah, production design not doing all that much here. Not that it was bad. It just, if you just came off Tim Burton, you're doing a lot of work.
So, have you ever seen the Wolfgang Peterson movie In the Line of Fire?
Does that also have a werewolf in it?
No, but that's the movie that Ennio Morricone scored right before this. So that's the mood he was in. Probably.
Wolf, logical next step.
We
have a whole gang of wolves in this movie.
This guy was working in the 90s, though. Oh, he got another dog movie? Oh, a year earlier. 10 years earlier. Yeah, he made a movie called White Dog. Or he composed it, I should say. Yeah, wild stuff. Cool.
Who wore it better, Jack Nicholson or Hugh Jackman?
What do you mean?
Who looks wolfish better, Jack Nicholson in this movie or Hugh Jackman in X-Men movies?
Well, I think we should be more specific in the X-Men movies because I don't think the makeup on the early X-Men movies was doing anyone any favors. But
they wanted to be a more realistic and grounded X-Men. You know, team of mutants.
I mean, I don't even think of that.
Don't want them to look ridiculous. Like, that would be weird.
Yeah, let's just shove them in, black leather jackets and spandex.
Yeah, Halle Berry didn't even have a cool cape thing. Cool cape, like, attached to her arms. Thought that was always cool in the cartoons.
So, this movie was budgeted at $70 million.
That is a lot of money.
It's a lot of money for a movie that's set in the publishing offices. Yeah, there's
Jack
like
Nicholson's
wolf makeup.
I'm desperate to make this movie, but I'm not going to take less than $25 million to make it. Danny DeVito's like, I got to make Hoffa. Pay me nothing, please.
James Spader's still coming up. Michelle Pfeiffer was just Catwoman, so she's probably asking for a little bit of money. Christopher Plummer.
Yeah, but you could be like, you don't have to wear a corset. Come over here. No more dumb period pieces.
Yeah, work a little cheaper, no corset.
Yeah, no wig.
But the movie made $131 million. So,
Woo.
It made money.
Even back then, people were hungry for the superhero films.
I'm looking for Roger. Ah, I got it.
Hey, all right, give me the goods.
Roger, Roger, Roger. Roger, 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 Roger. R-O-G-E-R. R-O-G-E-R.
Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times wrote, Wolf is both more and less than a traditional werewolf movie. Less because it doesn't provide the, frankly, vulgar thrills and excesses some audience members are going to be hoping for. And more because Nicholson and his director, Mike Nichols, are halfway serious about exploring what might happen if a New York book editor did become a werewolf.
I think if you're doing it, you might as well do it serious. Like, you don't want it to be a joke. He, like, turns into a werewolf and slips on a banana peel and the bloop noise comes on.
I'm laughing if that's happening.
Yeah.
It's a good time.
Well, in something that will surprise nobody, this film fails to pass the Bechdel test.
Oh, really?
There are only two women, and they seem to be at odds. At the beginning, I was like, oh, wow, Jack Nicholson's married to a woman his own age. Delightful. Well, not for long.
Yeah, not for long.
In a reverse Hollywood, James Spader decides to bed Jack Nicholson's wife. Jack Nicholson's wife, who's apparently a groupie for publishing editors.
Yeah, I know.
Well, in the meantime, let's take a little sidestep here to talk about sort of adjacent rock watching. Let's talk about DC imploding a little bit more, huh?
Yes, that sounds good.
It's really in the scope of Batgirl. All right, this is from June 20th. From Variety by Adam B. Very. The Flash box office disaster exposes DC's $1.1 billion problem for Warner Brothers. All right. In the climax of the... probably don't want to talk about that. The Flash is the second of four mega-budgeted... we're not including Batgirl. Tiny budgeted. 4 mega-budgeted DC adaptations the studio is set to release this year, starting with Shazam. Uh-oh.
That went well.
Followed by whatever the hell Blue Beetle is. Some of my words inserted in there.
Yeah.
Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom.
So excited. You can't shit on that one. That one is so exciting.
I look forward to you being disappointed by studio over-meddling.
Stop. No, they didn't touch the first one.
Oh, well, I know they didn't, but they hadn't had 3 box office bombs in a row.
This is
and
true.
I'm presuming
This is all
4
true.
whenever whatever Blue Beetle comes out.
They might do okay.
So they knee-jerk, and they're like, shit, we gotta make this stupider. Let's go. Yet these movies were conceived and greenlit by an executive team that have all departed the studio. But yet these guys decided to keep going with them, but not
Yes.
Batgirl. That would be ridiculous.
Why would you?
Wait, who's gonna watch this?
Is that the one with the girl in it? Get rid of it.
Yet these movies were conceived and greenlit by an executive team that have all departed the studio. In their place, new DC studio chiefs James Gunn and Peter Safran have announced they will reboot the DC with James Gunn's Superman Legacy in 2025. And The Flash was setting this up somehow?
The Flash is it's based on a Flashpoint comic, which is where they reset timelines. So they're trying to course correct everything. But they don't really do that in this movie.
That was like the whole marketing thing of the movie, and they didn't even do it?
Let me tell you, they don't really do much in the movie except for make everyone look like a fucking jackass, but I had an okay time. Okay.
Yeah, the movie's like 2.5 hours, and they didn't do anything?
Well, they don't know what to do with Ezra Miller because there's one personality that's like a wet blanket, and then the other personality is so annoying and obnoxious, so...
Okay.
Then you put Michael Keaton, and you're like, oh, I want to see Michael Keaton. And then the movie is gonna be like, but it's kind of a Flash movie. And I'm like, but you got the charisma guy over here, and I don't want to watch what Ezra's doing. It's not fun. And then they introduce someone I've never heard of, and her name is Supergirl.
Oh.
And I'm like, who is this? Who is this actress? Oh, it doesn't matter because she's in it for 5 minutes and then she's gone, and we don't see really anything to do with her. Bye. It's just over.
Yes, wonder if that was a setup for something. Ooh, awkward. It just seems weird that your first Flash solo movie ever is like a really weird niche.
Team-up movie? Yeah, it's like a weird team-up movie.
I don't understand that. That seems like a Flash 3 type movie, and you're just like going for it right away, huh?
Well, technically The Flash was in Suicide Squad, Justice League, Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice.
Okay.
So this is his fourth appearance.
Okay, I want to talk more about that later,
I know.
but let's keep going here. So that's left Warner's in one of the worst rock and a hard place conundrums in memory. Its 2023 slate of DC films are now orphans in a moribund cinematic universe, but the studio still needs audiences to see them because they paid a lot of money for them. I don't know. Maybe you write those off and burn them. That seems to be your go-to strategy. The Scoob wasn't popular enough. Batgirl wasn't popular enough. Fuck them. It's not even worth it, apparently, for you to show Westworld anymore, so you dump those off on Tubi. My goodness.
I heard that it's getting sold to Netflix eventually.
I saw that too, but like all of them are on Tubi at the moment. I'm like, Tubi saving the day again. Go for it, guys. Warner Brothers paid so much, and they just dumped it on Tubi, where I can watch it for free.
Yeah.
It's perhaps unavoidable, but terrible case of timing, said a source of a rival studio. Audiences don't feel like they have to invest 2 hours in their life because it's not going to matter. This is stuff I've been saying for at least half a year. You guys should have been listening to the podcast the whole time. We're on the cutting edge. Nobody wanted to quote me. Indeed, things have not been going well. The production budgets and likely marketing spends, which I imagine are a couple $100 million themselves.
Astronomical. Just like...
Yeah, spends for these 4 films will cost between $1.1 billion and $1.2 billion. But outside of Shazam 2, which is already bombed, earning a feeble $133 million. My goodness.
Is so bad. Wow.
Globally, that's global, $133 million.
Really bad.
And The Flash just opened to 55 in the U.S. and Canada, and 135 million worldwide. Well under expectations, nowhere near what it needed to break even. The movie should be opening at 120 million domestically.
They were favorably giving it like a 75 to 80 million opening, and then it went below those expectations. I'm like,
this is an unmitigated disaster. A spokesperson for Warner Brothers declined to comment. The Flash rollout also faced unprecedented difficulties caused by its star, a person I've never heard of, by the way.
Ezra's been in a couple of things. Perks of Being a Wallflower.
Outside of a couple of very tiny events, Miller has been totally out of the public eye since August when they apologized to everyone that I have alarmed and upset with my past behavior. Multiple allegations of misconduct, abuse, and assault. But he's like, I got complex mental health issues. Oh well. Pulling a Christopher Plummer and replacing Miller was a non-starter. We just talked about Christopher Plummer.
Hold on. Can you imagine if they were like, we gotta pull a plumber, like we gotta do a plumbing job on this.
Oh, I guess it's tough because he's in every scene and also plays 2 versions of themselves.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, can you imagine taking them out of the entire movie and be like, we can get this done in a month. Ridley Scott did it in like 3 days. Just And there's a lot of movie that Christopher Plummer had to sub in for Kevin Spacey in that. It's a lot. I don't know if you ever saw that movie.
No.
It's not very good, but it's a lot that Christopher Plummer had.
It was probably the best thing to happen to that movie, because then they had a lot of free publicity.
Yeah, definitely.
It's the only reason I remember that movie, quite frankly.
Yeah, that movie bombed. But how old was Christopher Plummer when that movie was being made? Like, how? He was definitely, like, in his 80s. Looking this up right now so we can just move past that part. So, yeah, because he died at the age of 91 2 years ago. So he was in his, like, late 80s. Oh my God, that's so cruel to ask someone to do. They better have paid him a lot of money.
Though, the studio did have fair warning. Apparently, Miller was caught on video in April of 2020 choking a woman in Iceland months before The Flash went into production. But God help you if you release this Batgirl movie. We're going to go ahead with a star who choked a woman with actual verifiable proof. Not just allegations. Proof!
Yeah, there's also a video of him, like, hitting a fan.
But we are in no way going to allow anyone to ever watch this Batgirl movie that had the same test screening scores as Black Adam. And The Flash, by the way. To compensate for the absence of his problematic lead, Warner spent heavily on TV spots during the NBA Finals. Did you catch a lot of Flash commercials when you were watching that?
I didn't watch the finals. I only watched the playoffs with the Celtics.
And director Andy Muschietti, is this guy a superhero guy, or does he do other real things?
Andy Muschietti made It Part 1 and It Part 2. Mama.
I don't know.
Have you seen Mama?
With Octavius.
No, you're thinking of Ma. Just one Ma.
Not the sequel. Yeah. In January, Gunn called the film one of the best superhero movies I've ever seen. Not like that trash Batgirl.
He didn't say trash like Batgirl.
No, he did. But Batgirl must be, like, unwatchable, right? Like, that's going to be the takeaway. It must be unwatchable if they were not willing to go with that.
Impossible.
But Flash is one of the best he's ever seen.
Let me tell you something. I believe the Batgirl was directed by the brothers, or I think the brother directors of Bad Boys for Life, the third Bad Boys movie, which I found very enjoyable. It came out right before the pandemic, made the most money in 2020. I believe it was the highest grossing movie, maybe behind Sonic that year.
That's not fair.
Looks cool, though.
Looks cool, I'm sure. CEO David Zaslav didn't even bother qualifying. He just said The Flash is the best superhero movie outright.
Well, what is he supposed to say?
Yeah, when they called it the greatest superhero movie, if it's not correct, you're setting yourselves up to fail, says an executive at a different rival studio than the one that had already quoted. In this environment, it's better to underpromise than overdeliver. Well, not over there.
Don't agree.
Looking at these DC highs and lows, yep, it does indeed look like Aquaman is indeed the best performing one by a wide margin, other than a very close second in Joker.
Really? That's funny, because Joker's rated R and Aquaman's PG-13.
Yeah, Joker actually has a very good international gross, which I'm a little surprised by.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And then, the Batman and Batman vs. Superman are kind of third and fourth. The worst-looking performing one seems to be Shazam, Fury of the Gods.
Yeah, that's very bad.
Perhaps the most ominous for Warner's, however, is the possibility that audiences are becoming blasé about cinematic universes altogether. There have been at least 55 movies based on comic books in the past decade alone.
Gross.
Most of them part of an interconnected mega franchises that depend on fans flocking to them, no matter which superhero is in the title. Not only does The Flash reference events and characters in everything from Justice League to Aquaman, but it relies heavily on the climax of 2013's Man of Steel for its own... It does?
Of what? Which one?
The Flash relies on the climax of Man of Steel for its own final act? Does it remind you of this 10-year-old movie? Or were you like, what just happened?
Sorry. As Ezra Miller's character, the Flash, sees God, this movie. I saw this movie less than a week ago, and it's such a blur. They're back in the metropolis where all the buildings are crashing down because Superman and Michael Shannon's character are fighting Zod. Michael Shannon shows up.
Played by Henry Cavill.
I don't think we see. Oh no! Do you want more spoilers for Flash?
Yeah, okay. I'm not watching it.
Yeah, so these are spoilers.
Spoiler alert, everybody.
Guess who shows up as Superman? Christopher Reeve. Totally alive, Christopher Reeve.
Then why are you bringing back Michael Shannon and what? Ostensibly, you're trying to undo everything you've just done for 10 years, and now you're not even going to do that?
They also have Nicolas Cage as Superman fighting a giant spider.
Let's reference this little-known, unreleased superhero film. Yeah.
It's like a 15-second clip, but it's just like, are we just doing complete fan service now? We just don't even care about making a cohesive story. It's just like, who is this for? I mean, I know of it, but it's just like it doesn't even exist. And I know they're doing alternate universes, but it's just like when you're the movie feels padded out. It's so long. Yeah, but they call back to the Metropolis fight between Zod and Superman from Man of Steel,
but not really, because Christopher Reeve's in there.
For some reason, they're like all the universes are like God, it's so stupid.
Well, that sounds familiar.
Because the funny thing is, it was done much better a week before in Spider-Verse. It's done so much cleaner and narratively more cohesive in Spider-Verse. It's just so frustrating. You're the fourth multiverse movie to come out in under 2 years. And you had the most time to work on it. And this is what we get. All right.
Similarly, Marvel's Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania drew from several past films and the Loki TV series. Moviegoers shrugged. When you have a film set in a multiverse, it's asking the audience to recall past films instead of shutting off their brain and enjoying what's in front of them. Well, by the way, you should have been complaining about this for a long time, because this is what the Marvel machine has been doing forever. When I was still watching them, for reasons I won't get into, I would be popping in and out of specific ones and be like, this makes no sense. Is this calling back to something? So I'm already out of the loop on a lot of the things. And The Flash sounds like it's taking it to 11 in this, or setting up other things that would have made no sense had you skipped this. And now you're complaining about it now? It's always been a problem now. I don't know what the... He notes that The Flash's domestic opening weekend is on par with debuts from other titles that have been part of the DC universe. Black Adam, Aquaman, apparently, Joker, and Batman all were kind of in this area. I'm sorry. Whereas Joker and the Batman, which were standalone films, opened up to 96 and 134 million respectively.
The Flash should have been a standalone film.
Moving forward, Warners and DC must walk a painfully narrow path. Gunn has said recently that the titular character of Blue Beetle is the first DCU character, which could save the film from feeling like a lame duck. Yeah, that's how you want to begin your DC universe, with whatever the fuck Blue Beetle is. Meanwhile, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom will conclude the old DC universe for good. But whether it can approach the one point, I'm sure that will matter in some degree. I'm sure it will feel like an
I don't want it to matter. I want to have a good time at Aquaman.
Ultimately, the most important factor remains quality. There can be audience fatigue when it comes to obligation of having to watch 20 movies to understand a new one, which is annoying. Maybe that's why people are starting to feel it now, because before... You didn't really have to... It was easy to catch up. You know, if you were starting out, if you were just getting on board the train.
Yeah.
You'd be like, all right, that's good. But now there's way too much coming out. It's hard to keep up. Maybe it's just... It's critical mass.
I don't know the actual statistic there, but the decade of building up to Endgame was, I believe, it's like 20 movies or whatever. And that's a lot. But people were, going along with it. Since Endgame, which was in 2019, till now, there's been about 12 Marvel movies and then 15 Marvel TV shows that you have to watch to be up to date.
Yeah.
That's insane. That's insane to ask of anyone. And those Marvel TV shows are fucking slogs. I made through one of them, and that was because it was the beginning of the pandemic and nothing was available to watch. I think those Marvel shows are awful. It's just a cry to make them a 2-hour movie.
It makes the case that perhaps a large swath of the Marvel-going audience was in fact casual fans, more than I would have thought.
Yeah.
So, there are the devotees that are going to watch them, are going to make them appointment viewing, TV and movies, and maybe even watch them multiple times. They're going to watch them when they come out and then, watch them all again to get ready for when a new one comes out. But then a lot of people are just, dudes that have, an Iron Man sweatshirt or something, and they're like, yeah, woo, new Marvel things.
Yeah, I like Robert Downey Jr. Now he's gone. Oh, well, I'm not coming back then.
Some good Schadenfreude there. Yeah, it's particularly annoying because you showed me that photo from the Batgirl, and it was like, oh, look, a movie that would have had personality. A movie that would have been...
There were sets. They made sets.
Yeah, I know. They made sets. They had, a kooky, expressionist design. You actually wanted to try to...
It looks like $70 million was spent.
You've spent well, yeah, I know.
I think you would have watched it. After all this time of talking about it, I think you were like...
Now I watch it out of spite just to make Warner Brothers feel dumb for their thing, for their decision. I'm like, fuck you, I'm one of the numbers, you assholes. All right, you want a little quick football around the world?
Football round the world.
All right, well, real quick, the Maulers of the USFL and the Renegade/Cali War of the WFA all have made the playoffs, but the real news is I finally secured... Are you looking at this hat, Joe?
Wow. That's a beautiful hat.
This is my Hamburg Sea Devils baseball cap.
Oh,
flown
nice.
Just in from Germany itself.
Wow.
For 3 years, I've been trying to get one of these hats. Couldn't be done. Finally located one. I even had a guy go to Germany, be on the lookout for the hat. Couldn't find any of the hats.
You sent a guy out to Germany?
I didn't send him. He was going there, and I was like, hey, by the way... And then he really wanted to find one, and he couldn't do it, and he got annoyed. He was like, where the fuck are these hats? And they're like, But I got one. Came in. Big coup for Patrick. Many hats still on the loose, still out in the wild I can't find, including one from the Timbo T-Rexes down in the Mexican Football League. The Brazilian Football League, I should say.
That international shipping.
Well,
What?
They are in Mexico. I could get them in Mexico. They just won't ship them to America. So I've got to, take a trip down to Mexico to a P.O. box and pick up the hat, I guess, is what I got to do.
That sounds fun.
That's a little trip I got to do. And then there are the Gyro Sharks, obviously, hats, tough to find, and Amsterdam Crusaders, the Belfast Trojans, the Fujitsu Frontiers, hats still to be found on my list, my bucket list.
That's awesome.
All right, so you said you found the secret ending to Wolf.
It's not a secret ending. It was just the ending that they reshot. Contrary to popular belief, the entire third act of the movie was not reshot. Aha! The only added shot was Will jumping over the bars of the stable into which Laura locked him, because the studio felt that extra action was needed. The shot cost nearly $1 million, which Nichols called $700,000 worth of aspirin for the studio. So it wasn't that the ending tested poorly and they reshot the entire thing. It tested poorly for a lack of action, so they added one extra scene to spice things up a bit.
It sounds like they added one extra shot.
Yeah.
It felt like there was a fair amount of action.
Yeah.
If you needed him jumping over the bars for any reason, it's so that we have an excuse for why he's not behind the bars anymore. Because if I'm watching the scene and he's behind the bars and then suddenly is not, I might be like, how did you get out, Jack? Be like a continuity issue, right?
Yeah. Someone put that together on set. They're like, well, we gotta figure this out.
It's weird. You didn't plan to shoot something like that. But they do get a lot of mileage out of it. We cut to that jumping scene 5 times because he jumps up little by little each time.
That's nice.
It felt pretty action-packed, but maybe that adds to the tension of oh no, is he gonna make it over in time, or is James Spader Wolf Guy gonna rape Michelle Pfeiffer in front of us?
I thought that's why they were gonna add the extra scene so that that wouldn't happen to her, and that's why I was like, oh, is that the deleted the wrong ending where
did they go too far before?
Yeah.
You know, when James Spader's trying to get to Michelle Pfeiffer, That second guard, the one he doesn't run over, is very cavalier. He looks full-on wolf, James Spader. And the guard's like, what are you doing here, sir? And not immediately going for his gun. Because, he's never heard of werewolves before.
What are you doing here, wolf?
What are you doing here? Guy with extremely pointy canines and creepy eyes and...
Yeah, do you think they shot their load, though? Because they could have called this movie Wolves.
Wolves. No, the sequel would be Wolves, obviously.
I know that, but there's already 2 wolves.
Yeah, but they don't want you to know. Like, the James Spader wolf comes what feels like legitimately out of nowhere. They explain how they did set it up, so I give it a bit of a pass, but it did feel like I had no reason to expect it.
So when he got his shoes peed on, that's when he became a werewolf, right?
No, Joe. He did complain about that, though.
He did.
No, he reminds us, he's like, he bit me. And that's when, Jack discovers that
I know.
his wife was cheating on him. And I had remembered he did that, and is he going to become a wolf? But they didn't focus on it, and no blood came out, so I didn't think... They didn't make a big deal about it. If they when James Spader does it, I don't know, an hour and 10 minutes later, I'm like, whoa, what? Why is he a wolf guy now? There's been no... Especially since Jack Nicholson, the very first night or second night becomes wolf guy. James Spader's just, suddenly in the police station. He's like, I'm a weirdo,
That is an hour and 40 minutes into this movie. This movie is 2 hours and 15 minutes long? No, 2 hours and 5 minutes long. And it's
5 minutes long.
Right at the end. The third act begins, and it's Spader's a werewolf, and I'm like, okay. Whatever you say, movie, you need a third act.
That was real quick. So there you go. All right. What are your last looks, Joe?
My last looks. Jack, I didn't know I needed it. I'm glad I got the wolf. I'm glad I got the wolf man from Jack. Jack the wolf man.
Yeah.
That's great.
Why does Jack Nicholson do this movie? Well, apparently he really, really wanted to do this movie. What do you mean why?
For 12 years.
He really wanted to do this movie. And it kind of, he's a starring role. It, in theory, is an interesting, complex character. It doesn't explore it super well, but it certainly does more than it could have that I've seen in a lot of other werewolf films. So some amount of effort, and didn't want to overemphasize the wolfy parts, which is probably what enticed Nicholson to the script or whatever. So, fine. Why doesn't Mike Nichols do this movie? I don't know, throwing Jack a solid, I guess.
He was doing a favor.
Couldn't quite tell you on that one. Jack Nicholson's done a lot of movies, so I don't know. It's nice that a lot of these movies or a lot of these old collaborations that he went to in the early 90s didn't pan out. It's nice, I guess, that this one did for him, and it's got to feel validating that he'd been trying to make this for so long, and finally it paid off. I'm just surprised studios didn't want to make this earlier. You didn't want to make this in the 80s? You had Teen Wolf. You didn't want to make this?
Maybe that was holding them up. They're like, we don't want it to be an old wolf. We want Jack to still look virile. But I guess you wait longer.
So you do it earlier then? What do you mean?
Yeah.
That's why you do it.
He just looks so old in the 80s as it was. We talked about it though. Pritzi's Honor, he looks old now. He something happened.
Yeah, but before that, you had Terms of Endearment. He wins an Academy Award. You don't want to make it then?
Yeah.
Come on.
He had Pritzi's Honor. He needed that made immediately. John Huston didn't have long left, right? That's Huston.
Is that why Jack Nicholson looks kind of good in Hoffa? Is because
he was getting wolf shape?
Yeah. Well, he took 93 off, so they might not overlap at all, but...
He didn't. He was making the movie in 93, remember? But the delay...
Yeah, but Hoffa was made in 92, so it was probably shot in 91, right?
That's true, yeah.
I don't think they overlapped. All right. I'd like to thank our sponsor, Nausages. Have those if if you're getting a little tummy rumbly. You definitely want some Nausages there. Thank Lev Van Rensselaer for minding those audio boards and keeping the sound so slippery smooth. I'd like to thank my co-host, Joe Vekeman, for stopping by.
Thank you.
And I am your host, Patrick Scale. You may find my features, documentaries, short films, video essays, animations, behind-the-scenes footage, and so much more at QuixoticUnited.com and social media, presumably with a similar-sounding name. Thank you all for listening. Joe, say goodnight.
Good night.
Werewolf of London.
Oh, yeah.
Werewolf of London.
He's a hairy-handed gent who ran amok in Kent. Lately he's been over...
One movie would end, then there'd be like 20 to 30 minutes in between the next film, so I would just log. And these are all films I've seen before, other than the 3 bonus films that were screened late at night.
Oh, wow.
So I already kind of had the gist of how I felt, but the crowd helped kind of change some feelings. My older age changed. I've watched all these films when they came out on the Criterion like 3 years ago, so it's not like it's been that long.
Yeah.
But yeah, 18 films, plus I snuck in 1 or 2 other ones just at home in the mornings.
Damn. Oh, I've watched a movie. Have I even told... I think I told you about this, though.
Was it a Godzilla movie?
No, I haven't watched... I've never seen a Godzilla movie except for the Matthew Broderick one. No, wait, no, I've seen the new one, sorry.
You had to have seen... You saw Aaron Taylor-Joy? No, what's his guy's name?
Aaron Taylor-Joy?
Jeez.
It's Johnson.
Oh, that's close.
The strange thing about the Johnsons, let me tell you, there's nothing strange about him. He's so boring and ordinary.
The Godzilla Festival was 5 days. 3 of them were full days. And then Monday, Tuesday felt kind of obligatory. Monday was a national holiday. I don't know why they didn't just put 4 movies on that day and be done with it. Because Monday and Tuesday, the theater had sort of been like, yeah, okay, you guys are still doing this? Fine.
Were there a lot of people there?
There were more. I was a little worried it was going to be too niche, but there were people there, and then they were really into it. Like, they were a pretty big crowd. Some movies had bigger crowds than others, and I had a pretty good idea of what those would be. But some of them surprised me.
That's exciting.
And then, like, Godzilla would come on the screen, and people would be like, woo! And then he'd beat up some dude, and they'd be like, yeah, go get him.
Were you like that at all?
No, I'm much more reserved. But I would applaud at the end when the film was done. We'd all applaud. And be like, yeah.
Good. That's so nice.
And, Friday through Sunday, they'd be like, 4 movies will have happened, and then they'd be like, who wants to stay for a free bonus film at the end? And we'd all be like, woo! And then they'd be like giving away, they'd be like raffling off, signed photographs and prints from the movie and stuff. It was pretty cool. But then Monday and Tuesday came. There was no like pre-movie speech from somebody. They'd come in and be like, who's been to all the movies so far? And the hands would get smaller and smaller as the week went. And I'm like, yes, me. I'm the... They were just like, here's the movie. And then like they'd walk out and be like, beans. But in between, they'd show funky old Godzilla, like a commercial with Godzilla and Charles Barkley, and a commercial of Snickers, and that Father's Day commercial I showed you.
I'm just checking out.
Pretty nice. It's only got the 2 screens, but they do some good programming there. They showed some Japanese commercials with Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's like a weird genie man.
I love it.
So overall, pretty good weekend. Wish we didn't lose steam at the end, but everybody there, you could buy like a festival-long pass, and you basically only paid for 9 of the 15 movies.
Oh.
And everybody kept being surprised that I kept showing up, and I'm like, I bought the pass, I got the wristband.
Yeah.
I was hoping they do like a cool punch card thing, and then I have like 15 they didn't think that far ahead. I didn't even check my wristband by the last couple days. They were like, yeah, just go, and it's fine. You degenerate, get in there.
I told you about this movie that the one that really stuck out to me on Thursday at 1:45. No.
What are we talking about? Thursday? That's a pre-Godzilla marathon, Patrick. He doesn't know anything anymore.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Okay. So, the movie I watched was called I Like Movies.
Oh, yeah. Where is it? Is that a Hulu thing?
That is you have to explore the internet for that one.
I have to do some deep diving.
Yeah, it's not really available yet.
I'm already a little turned off.
No. It's just because it just came out and it's just like it's not available yet. And
okay, well I can wait it out.
When it becomes available, I will immediately purchase this. I really liked it. But yeah, when you can check that one out. It's not that long. It's like 90 minutes.
The length of a Showa era Godzilla film.
Listen, I'm happy. I'm happy for you. That was the most exciting thing when you were sending me all those things. I was like, oh, this is great.
It was. I was excited. I'm like, oh, good. Are you going to do the later ones now? There's 2 other eras of Godzilla films to explore, all much shorter. It's like 6 films, 7 films. You could cram that in a weekend pretty easy. And I went, man, a lot of legal rights with those. And I went, no.
That's
the best thing Criteria did was buy all these old Godzilla films, because now you just go to one person and you say, hey, might we be able to screen these? And they go, yeah. It's a little trickier with the other ones, I guess. So I gotta wait for Criterion to buy those.
It's so weird, the rights of Godzilla and King Kong.
I know.
It's the weirdest thing.
One Godzilla film was meant to be a King Kong film. Godzilla sorry, it didn't even have Godzilla's name in it. It was called Ebirah, Terror of the Deep. And that one was supposed to be Godzilla instead of King Kong. So Godzilla does things like find women to be sexy and like throw rocks at the lizard, the lobster guy. So, and even the Japanese version of Kong vs. Godzilla, like the one where Americans like shot some extra footage to make it more America friendly. And what that means is some fucking jabroni in an American newsroom was like, here's the updates. Here's some exposition for you. Now let's go to Tokyo and see what's going on. And then you do the real movie for a bit. As a bunch of grown men watch dudes in suits battling each other out. Dudes in big rubber suits.
That's fine. At least there's practicality to it.
It was it still looked good. All these years later, little 8-year-olds are like running around the theater. They got Godzilla costumes on. I was like,
oh, there was kids there too?
Oh, yeah. You know,
That's
for certain.
great.
They tried to play dubs when they can, which I know some people are like, but you know, if you got 8-year-olds, you don't want them reading. That's not going to get them into the movies.
Yeah, you gotta start them early so that they can appreciate it later.
Yeah, and not all dubs were terrible, but it certainly made some films sillier. They didn't play the dub for the original movie, which is a smart move, but
Yeah.
when you get to Godzilla-verse, you know, Megalon, a dub's okay. You're in silly Atlantean Star Trek-looking people now anyway, so that's my guy. All right, you want to do a little wolfie? You got a little wolf in you?
I'm just curious to find out during this podcast if you somehow made time to watch other wolf movies like you have been with other.
No, there were no other Wolfman movies allowed.
That would have been
was not
crazy if you put that
possible.
upon yourself. I was thinking
I
about
almost had
watching
it,
the Benicio del Toro one.
Didn't we watch that together?
No, I've never seen it.
No. I did see that one. It was like a bunch of guys. We all went out. It was like Valentine's Day, and
Yep, that's when it came out. Around
we were all singles, so we all went and watched it. We're like, all right, it's Valentine's Day. Let's go.
Yeah.
And the movie was bad, but they liked it.
Notorious Benicio del Toro did not want to be in the makeup, and it's like, why did you sign up for the movie then?
Yeah. Well, Anthony Hopkins was game, and in typecast fashion played a guy who ate people. So
Excellent.
there you go. All right, well, I'm not gonna talk about that movie though. I'll talk about this other one.
Let's talk about this one.
We'll talk about this one after I take a drink of water.